It's 1953, in a secret lab sponsored by the American Tobacco Company. Scientists are watching mice painted with cigarette tar. The results are undeniable: tumors. A confidential report is written, circulated to only the highest level executives, and then buried deep in a filing cabinet. 1 year later, January 4th, 1954, those same executives run a full-page ad in 400 newspapers. It reaches 43 million Americans with a comforting message. There is no proof that cigarette smoking is one of the causes of cancer. For the next half-century, that public lie and the private truth would define one of the deadliest corporate conspiracies in history. The question wasn't if they knew. It was how much they knew, and how far they'd go to hide it. So let's be clear. The conspiracy here isn't just that big tobacco might have caused cancer. The conspiracy is that they knew for a fact, and we have the receipts. Their own internal documents prove it.
And not just recently. We're talking about documents from the 1950s showing they had already made the connection between smoking and cancer.
Wait, so they knew in the 50s? That's my parents' entire childhood of everyone smoking in cars with the windows up.
Exactly. And the cover-up started almost immediately. It kicked off with a campaign called A Frank Statement to Cigarette Smokers in 1954, where every major tobacco company teamed up.
And that statement was the first big coordinated public denial. They created a united front to dispute the science, all while privately funding their own secret research to figure out just how bad the problem really was.
And it wasn't just about figuring out how bad the cancer link was. Over the next 4 decades, their own research confirmed links to heart disease and nicotine addiction, all of which they actively concealed.
Hold on, back up. Radioactive. They knew the cigarettes were radioactive, like Spider-Man radioactive.
It sounds absurd, but yes. A 2023 UCLA study of their own documents confirmed they knew since 1959 that the tobacco leaves contained radioactive polonium-210 and did nothing.
To understand the cover-up, you have to understand the crisis they were facing. In the early 1950s, several major scientific studies all came out pointing to the same conclusion. There was a powerful statistical link between heavy smoking and lung cancer.
This wasn't fringe science. It was coming from respected institutions, and it created a massive public scare. For the first time, the industry was facing a genuine PR catastrophe.
A PR crisis. That's a gentle way of saying, our product might be killing everyone and people are starting to notice.
Precisely. So instead of addressing the science, they created a front. They formed something called the Tobacco Industry Research Committee, or TIRC.
Publicly, the TIRC's purpose was to fund independent research into the health effects of smoking. But internal documents show its real job was to be a public relations shield.
Let me guess, the Tobacco Industry Research Committee mostly researched things that were not tobacco.
You're not wrong. The TIRC's main tactic was to manufacture doubt. They poured money into studies on literally anything else that could possibly cause cancer.
They sponsored research into air pollution, genetics, pre-existing diseases, anything to create a smokescreen and give the media another potential culprit to talk about. It was a masterclass in misdirection.
So their strategy was basically, it could be anything, a ghost, a curse. Have you considered that maybe some people are just unlucky?
And that strategy worked. It created the public perception of a legitimate scientific debate. You'd have one scientist on TV talking about the smoking link, and another, funded by the TIRC, talking about the importance of studying genetics.
But behind the scenes, there was no debate. The scientific consensus outside the industry was rapidly solidifying against smoking. And even more damning, the tobacco company's own internal scientists were replicating the findings and confirming the danger.
Their whole playbook was to demand absolute conclusive proof, a standard they knew was almost impossible to meet for something like population-level cancer statistics.
It let them move the goalposts forever. Meanwhile, they kept running ads and public statements flatly saying, "We believe the products we make are not injurious to health." They put it in writing.
We believe is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Like when a kid says, I believe I cleaned my room, you know for a fact they did not.
The first major crack in that united front came in 1963 from an internal memo at the Brown and Williamson Tobacco Company. It wasn't just a hint. It was a bombshell.
The company's own vice president of research wrote, and this is a direct quote, "Nicotine is addictive. We are, then, in the business of selling nicotine, an addictive drug."
Wow, so they weren't just a little bit evil. They were writing down our evil plan in a memo evil. That's a whole other level.
Then, on January 11, 1964, the government finally dropped the hammer. The Surgeon General released a massive report on smoking and health.
And it was exhaustive. The committee reviewed over 7,000 scientific articles before concluding, officially, that smoking is a direct cause of lung cancer in men. The language was unambiguous.
So the government finally shows up to the party, like a decade late, but at least they brought a really, really big report.
Faced with this official declaration, the industry didn't back down. They went deeper. In 1976, executives from tobacco giants all over the world met secretly in England for what they called Operation Berkshire.
It was a pact. They solidified a global agreement to maintain a united front, to continue denying the health hazards and coordinate their PR and legal strategies. They were all in this lie together.
Operation Berkshire. It sounds like a quaint countryside vacation, not a secret meeting to coordinate poisoning the world for profit.
And a key part of that ongoing deception was the marketing of light and mild cigarettes. They pushed them as a safer alternative, a way to reduce your risk without quitting.
But their own internal documents, which we now have, show they knew that was a lie. These products weren't safer. In fact, they found that some designs, like those with ventilation holes in the filter, actually encouraged smokers to inhale more deeply to get the same nicotine hit.
So, light was just a marketing term. It's like putting diet on a box of donuts. Your brain wants to believe it, but your body knows you're lying.
And this marketing wasn't just general, it was surgically targeted. The slim and thin brands were created specifically for women, playing on aesthetics and a false promise of a more delicate, less harmful cigarette.
All while their internal data showed these design changes did nothing to reduce the risk. In some cases, they actually increased it. But the marketing worked.
So they invented a new flavor of poison and called it For Her. That's not just evil, it's patronizing.
And if you think that's the bottom of the barrel, it gets worse. Just last year, in 2023, a study from UCLA looking at previously unanalyzed documents found something even more shocking.
They found the industry knew as early as 1959 that the tobacco leaves they were using contained radioactive polonium-210. They knew they were selling a radioactive product and said nothing for over 50 years.
Radioactive. What? Was causes cancer not a good enough selling point? They had to add comes with a free slow-motion atomic bomb? That's not a bug, it's a feature.
All of this decades-long deception culminated in one of the most infamous moments in corporate history. April 14, 1994. A congressional hearing. The 7 CEOs of America's largest tobacco companies are all brought in to testify.
One by one, they all raise their right hands, swear an oath to tell the truth. And then, one by one, each CEO testifies that they do not believe nicotine is addictive.
That's the corporate version of the It Wasn't Me song. 7 guys in suits, under oath, just collectively deciding to lie to the entire country on camera. The sheer audacity is almost impressive.
All right, let's separate the hard evidence from the PR spin. First, it is confirmed that the industry's own scientists privately knew and accepted the link between smoking and cancer way back in the 1950s.
This isn't speculation. The proof is in their own internal memos, which are now public record. They wrote it down themselves.
So, item 1 on the what's real list. They knew it was killing people for 70 years. Got it.
Second, it is confirmed they knew nicotine was addictive. They knew it decades before those CEOs lied to Congress.
The 1963 Brown and Williamson memo is the smoking gun. Literally. It explicitly states their business is selling nicotine, an addictive drug. There is no ambiguity there.
So they knew it was addictive in 63, but told Congress it wasn't in 94. That's not a misunderstanding. That's just a 31-year long lie.
Third, and this is the root of the whole conspiracy, a frank statement wasn't a one-off ad. It was the documented beginning of a coordinated multi-decade disinformation campaign.
Their entire strategy was to create public doubt about scientific facts they privately knew were true. It was all about protecting profits by selling uncertainty.
So they weren't just selling cigarettes, they were selling doubt. And it turns out doubt is a way more profitable product.
Fourth, the light and mild cigarettes. We can confirm this was a fraudulent marketing scheme from top to bottom. They knew they weren't safer.
Their internal documents show they engineered them to seem safer. But the changes were purely cosmetic, or, in some cases, made the cigarettes worse by encouraging deeper inhalation.
It's the ultimate corporate gaslighting. Worried about our deadly product? Try our other deadly product, but with a friendlier font.
Fifth, and this one is still hard to process. They knew the product was radioactive for half a century, and they did nothing.
The documents from that 2023 UCLA study are damning. They show the industry had a technique to wash out most of the radioactive polonium, 210 from the tobacco leaves.
But they decided against it. Why? Because the acid wash process would have affected the nicotine delivery. They chose to keep the radiation in to make sure the addiction hit was not compromised.
Let me get this straight. They could have made their poison less radioactive, but it would have made it slightly less addictive, so they just didn't? That's not a business decision. That's a supervillain origin story.
And that brings us to the final core truth. The public denial of harm wasn't because they were unsure. It was a calculated, cold-blooded lie.
For decades, they maintained this posture of scientific skepticism in public, while their private documents from the very same period show they had accepted the lethality of their own product.
It's the difference between saying, "I don't think this will burn the house down," and holding a gas can and a lighter while saying it. They knew.
And this is where we have to pull back, because this story isn't just about history. It's one of the largest and most lethal corporate conspiracies ever proven.
And it created a template. The Big Tobacco playbook: manufacturing doubt, funding front groups, attacking scientists personally, demanding impossible levels of proof. It's become the go-to strategy for any industry facing inconvenient science.
It's like they open-sourced corporate evil. Now, anytime a product turns out to be bad for you, step one is, just pretend the science is a debate.
And the cost of that open sourcing wasn't just measured in lives. It fundamentally broke public trust, not just in corporations, but in the institutions that are supposed to protect us.
Exactly. When you prove that a conspiracy this vast, this lethal, was actually real, it pours gasoline on the fire of every other theory out there. It makes it easier to believe the unbelievable.
It's like finding out your quiet neighbor was a super spy. Suddenly, you're suspicious of the mailman, the guy at the coffee shop, everyone. You can't unring that bell.
And that distrust was part of the psychological trick. By manufacturing just enough doubt in the science, they gave smokers permission to keep smoking.
It brilliantly shifted the responsibility. It was no longer about a company selling a dangerous product. It became about an individual's choice to believe one scientist over another.
It's the personal responsibility argument. You chose to smoke our incredibly addictive, cancer-causing product that we told you was safe. So really, this is on you.
The legal reckoning for that lie didn't really happen until the 1990s. In 1998, after being sued by 46 states, the big tobacco companies finally signed the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement.
The MSA forced them to pay hundreds of billions of dollars over time and severely restricted their advertising, especially anything targeting kids, but it was a settlement, not a conviction.
So they paid a massive fine, but they didn't have to go on TV and say we lied for 50 years. It was the world's most expensive, sorry, not sorry.
Ultimately, the Big Tobacco story is a chilling case study in how a powerful, wealthy industry can successfully manipulate public perception for profit. For decades, even when their own research proves their product is lethal.
And the tactics they perfected are still in use today. This playbook of manufacturing doubt about science is directly echoed in campaigns related to climate change, the opioid crisis, and countless other public health issues. Next week, we're looking at something that seems like pure fact, but some people are convinced it's the biggest lie ever told. We're going to explore how the moon landing connects to everything.
If you appreciate us digging through the actual documents to separate fact from industry-funded fiction, we're here every week. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive.